This scene reduced me to a sobbing mess when my girlfriend and I watched the first season of the anime a couple years ago. I knew it was coming too because I had watched it when I was a kid, but it still got me. The story arc of Caterpie growing into a Butterfree, finding love, and then leaving to forge its own life is an iconic Pokemon moment. It's so bittersweet and it pulls on my heartstrings. Letting go of a cherished Pokemon certainly should be bittersweet, especially when they've been with you through so much. Today, I'm going to be saying a similar goodbye, as I'm going to be welcoming a new mascot to the channel. Can you guess who it's going to be? Venomoth. At this point, you're probably thinking I'm joking. After all, I make a lot of jokes about Venomoth. It's typing specifically, and I hope that you're not getting tired of them yet, because they're not going to stop. But I'm not joking about Venomoth being the new mascot. In this video, I'm going to explain why it's the perfect fit for me now, and why over the last year and a half, it's actually slowly become my favorite Pokemon. So, let's get into it. Because today's video is a Pokemon challenge, we need some rules, so here they are for today. I've also left them in the description so that you can reference them later if you need to. Venomoth's Generation 1 base stats are decent. 90 special makes its moves hit hard and gives it the ability to tank other special attacks well. 90 speed gives it roughly an 18% chance to crit because in Generation 1, base speed determines the Pokemon's critical hit probability. Generation 1, I love you. Unfortunately, its HP, attack, and especially its defense aren't very good in comparison. However, if we put Venomoth side by side with another Pokemon like Butterfree, it actually starts to look more like Chadmoth. In terms of Learn Set, Venomoth gets access to a lot of good moves. Confusion to start, Leech Life, Psybeam, Sleep Powder, and Psychic through level up, and Toxic, Hyper Beam, Mega Drain, Psychic again, Mimic, Reflect, Swift, Rest, and Substitute through TMs. In my previous Pokemon challenge with Butterfree, I always relied on Sleep Powder because it learns it at level 15, but Venomoth has to wait all the way until level 43 to get access to it. Luckily, I've got better stats to fall back on, and I actually have access to a same type attack bonus move in the form of Leech Life. Yeah, did you think I was going to say Psychic? No, Leech Life is the stab move today. It's actually fun to note that Butterfree doesn't get access to any stab moves in Generation 1. Like, it's just so frustrating. And that brings us to the most important moment of the video. What type is Venomoth? Well, before I get to that, I've noticed something while creating these videos. I don't always share all my experiences with Pokemon because quite frankly, some of them are tough to talk about. It's easy to hide all of the harder stuff, like emotions, behind things like humor. Just make a pee-pee joke or have a girlfriend reference. I'd understand if when you clicked on this video, you were expecting it to be the funniest video I've ever made. Believe me, I still think that my Grimer video is the funniest video I've ever made. Check it out if you want to die from the cringe. Well, today I'm shooting for something that's more honest. So today Venomoth is a bug poison type. During this playthrough I'll share some of my stories about how Pokemon has impacted me and my life in often profound ways. I'll explain why these games are so close to my heart, and in the end I think you'll understand why this often forgotten pink moth that really should have been a psychic type is my new favorite Pokemon. The first challenge in any Generation 1 playthrough is to defeat Brock, and Venomoth has a strange conspiratorial relationship with this early game wall. As a kid, I was so frustrated trying to defeat Brock with Pikachu. Remember, I couldn't read when I started playing these games, so Thundershock and Thunderwave did nothing, and I had no idea why. I thought if I used them enough, the sprinklers in the gym would come on and I'd just win like Ash did in the anime, but yeah, that never happened. Eventually I started to use Quick Attack, which did pathetic damage. I'm sure I tried Double Team, but quickly would have written it off because it didn't do any damage at all. That must mean it's useless, right? Well, check out my Pikachu video to find out if that's true. So, as a kid, I was at a loss. I just couldn't get past him. And that's when Metapod evolved into Butterfree, learned Confusion, and with this new move, I attempted Brock again to see how it would do. And I was completely blown away with how amazing it was. I knew that I had to keep using this intimidating powerhouse butterfly. Journeying out past Pewter City onto Route 3 for the first time, I was so impressed with Butterfree's abilities against the poison types here that my small child's brain began to think that it just must be the best Pokemon in the game. I obviously knew that Charizard was the best Pokemon, of course, because the trading card did 100 damage and it had 120 hit points. Everyone at school knew that that was the best Pokemon, but in my mind, Butterfree was clearly the king of the video game. Because of this incredibly hard challenge that Butterfree allowed me to overcome, a bond formed between me and it, and it's lasted ever since then. That's why I chose it as my original mascot for the channel. So, how does all of this relate to Venomoth? Well, have you seen this graphic? Venonat has cute little antennae, and basically the same ones that Butterfree has. They're just white. Venonat has the same big red eyes that Butterfree has, as well as these cute little adorable hands, which honestly would be extremely useless for doing any kind of activity. Finally, it has the same sort of feet that Butterfree has as well. On the other hand, Caterpie, Metapod, and Venomoth share many design elements as well. Most notably, the fact that they're all just less cute than Venonat and Butterfree. Similar eyes, horny head thingy, and tail butt regions. As a kid, I actually really liked Venonat, so much so that I cried when my dad knocked out my Venonat when we were playing the trading card game together. I just wanted to see the cute little thing be the one that got me the victory. I wonder if subconsciously I recognized the similarities in design between Venonat and Butterfree, who was my favorite at that time. So why did this happen? Well, the developers could have accidentally mixed the two sprites up and just went with it, never letting on that the two were supposed to actually be flipped. Generation 1 is a buggy mess after all, and this is exactly that. But I personally find another interpretation more convincing. Clefairy was originally planned to be the mascot of the franchise, but it was swapped out last minute in favor of Pikachu, likely not to alienate fans who are boys. Boys, clearly can't like pink things. Pikachu was a good pick to go with. Unless you're soloing Pokemon Yellow, that is. But it was a good pick to be the mascot because it can be intimidating and fierce, but also at the same time cute. What if the designers looked at Venomoth and just said, people aren't gonna love that, but Butterfree's way cuter, so they'll love it. Put it at the start of the game where it can help the players overcome Brock. If someone made that decision, well, then they're responsible for the fact that Butterfree's my favorite Pokemon and not Venomoth. In the world where Venomoth evolved from Metapod, I would have formed the bond with it when I overcame Brock. And now at this point, it would be my favorite Pokemon, and it would have been the channel's mascot from the very start. It would have become my lifelong partner Pokemon. Okay, so catching up with the playthrough, the second rival starts with Spearow, and it knows Peck, dealing 1/3 damage to Venomoth on the first turn. Okay, that's not good. I was hoping Confusion would prevent it from moving, but it doesn't. Luckily, the bird uses Leer and allows me to knock it out the next turn, aided by a critical hit. Sandshrew time. I always cross my fingers and hope that Sand Attack doesn't get spammed here, but today it just scratches me twice and faints from 3 Confusions. Rattata's next. I use Confusion and one-hit it with a critical hit. Alright, that's nice. EEVEE time. It takes just under a quarter damage from Confusion, and it sets up Tail Whip. I use Tackle to see if physical moves would do more damage, because EEVEE has decent special, but it does the same amount as Confusion. EEVEE tackles my Moth and does a lot, taking me down to 6 hit points. Ugh, perhaps Supersonic can make it miss and prevent me from fainting, but EEVEE still moves and lowers my accuracy with the best move in the game, Sand Attack. I use Tackle, miss, EEVEE snaps out of Confusion, and uses Growl. Okay, so I live to see another turn. I tackle, it growls again, I use Confusion, get a lucky status out of it, but EEVEE still moves and uses Tail Whip. How is Venomoth still going? I use Confusion, it connects, and EEVEE goes down. I did it. That fight was ridiculous. Okay, it's time for Misty. She opens with Staryu. Confusion does under half to it, and its Water Gun does only 7 hit points of damage to Venomoth. So it's in 3 hit range, meaning I'm only going to take 2 turns of damage. Staryu gets a crit though, with the next one taking me down to 75% health. Next is Starmie. Misty chooses X-Defend first turn, and I go for Poison Powder. Confusion isn't a good choice as Starmie resists it, and I can't rely on Tackle because Starmie loves X-Defend and Harden. Second turn, it uses Bubble Beam, doing a quarter damage to me. I set up Supersonic. Okay, so this is not an encouraging fight so far. I can't do much damage, and Starmie is really good at getting critical hits after all. It could select Bubble Beam regularly as well and knock Venomoth out with ease. But this time I get lucky, it hits itself in Confusion twice and doesn't use Bubble Beam again. I take the victory. The rocket outside of Cerulean doesn't inspire confidence either. The fact that my only physical damage dealing move is Tackle is causing Venomoth some problems against Psychic types, especially because of my Poison typing. I just really wish I had access to a bug move right now. Up next is the last with 3 Pidgeys. She's annoying because her Pidgeys know Sand Attack. I use Confusion against them today, and I make it through this fight without any issues. That feels pretty good after what were 3 tense fights. On the SSN, I pick up the TM for Rest, skip Body Slam because Venomoth doesn't learn it. Maybe normal type Venomoth would though. What do you think? I want to get the Gentleman Candy because I'm using rare candies today, but unfortunately his fire types burn me in the process. This presents a significant problem. I don't have any burn heals, and I don't want to go back to Vermilion to heal at the Pokemon Center. And that means that I would need to battle the rival and Surge with the status condition in order to minimize real-time and game time played. I just don't want to heal in the Pokemon Center because I want to be able to dig back to Cerulean. The third rival is usually easy, so I'm going to attempt it without curing the burn. Maybe I can just heal before Surge with a super potion. Spearo's first. It's a 2-hit and it does a quarter damage with Peck before it goes down. Rattata's next, and it's still a 1-hit. Okay, so far so good. But now it's Sandshrew time. So I need to not get too confident here. This is the first fight where it knows Slash after all, and it does decent damage to me, leaving with just above half health when it faints. EEVEE's last. It starts with Tail Whip, taking 1/3 damage from Confusion. Lowers my accuracy with Sand Attack on the next turn, and then I have some PP problems. I don't have enough stamina to continue with Confusion clearly, so I need to tackle instead. It does less damage because of my burn, I fail my next Supersonic, and then my final tackle doesn't do enough damage and Venomoth faints because of its burn. Okay, so I made a mistake here. I forgot to use an Ether on Confusion. If I'd done that, I would have still won this fight even with the burn. But I didn't realize this while I was playing, so I backtracked to the Vermilion Pokemon Center to heal. I think that this is actually the first time that I've healed here since I released my Fossils video, so it's been a while since I've been in this building. Without the burn status, I try the rival fight again. Now it's easy for Venomoth. You may have actually noticed me buying burn heals in Pewter City in some of my previous videos. I don't always remember what I put in and what I keep out. Well, don't worry, I'm not actually time traveling, it's just because I actually recorded this video before I recorded those videos. So yeah, I've been sitting on this one for a little while now. Okay, let's do the trash can puzzle, and today, it's really not kind to me. Now, get ready for another mistake. Yep, I forgot to heal before the Surge fight. I've only got about 60% health. Raichu gets an X speed first turn and takes around 1/5 damage from Confusion. Next it uses Mega Punch, taking Venomoth down to 1/4 health. Supersonic misses, and because the Electric Mouse is outspeeding me, it connects with Mega Kick and finishes the battle off on the next turn. This time I'll remember to heal. It's easy to forget before Surge because I skip the Poké Center before the gym, then I pause the timer and do the trash can puzzle. When I resume the timer, I usually save right away, back up the save file in case the technology gods decide to ruin my recording, and then I fight him. I need to just consistently check there if I need to heal or if I don't, because I actually occasionally come into this fight without healing. But this time it was just like a significant amount of health that I hadn't healed. Oops. Probably healing when I teach Charmander Cut would be a good idea in the future since the menu is already open and I'm not wasting extra time. This time I'm able to defeat Surge and now I'm moving on. So it's time for the hiker in Rock Tunnel. He's got 2 Geodudes and 1 Graveler and he loves to use self-destruct with all of them, so he can be a wall for a lot of Pokemon. But today I've got a special move, so I'm feeling pretty good about this fight. However, Confusion doesn't knock the rock out, and then it explodes, dealing 1/3 damage to Venomoth. Okay, this isn't good. The second Geodude survives as well, and it uses Rock Throw, taking me down to 30 hit points. Okay, I won't survive another hit from Self-Destruct or from Rock Throw. Graveler's last, and in a stroke of luck, Confusion confuses it. It hits itself, and then I finish it off. Holy, I am having a lot of really lucky fights in this run. I'm glad that I'm just moving on from this. Now that I've cleared Rock Tunnel, Venomoth gets access to its most powerful TM. And this is its most powerful stab move, obviously. And I mean Psychic. With it and a few PP ups on my side, I'm able to take Erica on. She's easy because my bug poison typing makes Venomoth a defensive beast against her grass type Pokemon. I defeat her, and after that I proceed to Saffron City's fighting dojo to do some training. During this section of the game, I usually want to level up a decent amount. Honestly, the game's level curve really speeds up between Erica and Koga. Her highest Pokemon is level 32, and Koga's ace, well, Venomoth, is level 50. So for that mirror match, I'm gonna need a few more levels. Plus, Sleep Powder's coming up really soon, and it's really gonna help with any threat that the game throws at me. The perfect place to do this training is in Sylph because there's so many poison types, and Venomoth makes quick work of all of them. The one rocket in the whole building though that I'm occasionally scared for is this guy. His Golbat loves to confuse you, and after that the Drowsy and the Hypno really like to put your Pokemon to sleep. If that ends up happening, I occasionally have to reset. But Venomoth's great and it manages this fight like a boss, so I won't have to put the rival off any longer. Let's give it a try. He starts with Sand Slash. It usually gives me a lot of issues. Slash is just great at dealing a lot of damage. Today, Psychic does 2/3 damage. I tank the Slash, which does 1/3 damage, and then I finish it off. From here, I manage the Ninetales and Cloisters with great ease. Psychic puts in the work. Kadabra's next, and Leech Life is perfect against it. It's time for his ace, Flareon. I didn't face him at the optional location today in the early game, and that was intentional so that Venomoth would face this team, which I think is going to be the hardest for it to overcome. Sleep Powder is what I need here to avoid the super effective moves. Plus, in Generation 1, Sleep is broken, and I knocked the Flareon out. It's pretty easy. All memes, like superheroes, have an origin story. Venomoth, quite frankly, was a Pokemon I just never thought about pre-2020. I'd only have brief moments where I'd have to manage it in battle. Koga has one in Yellow. It's sometimes pesky to deal with because it's level 50 and Psychic is a great move, especially in Generation 1. Sabrina has one in Red and Blue, but Alakazam was always the scarier Pokemon in that fight. Let's just reflect on all of that I just said. So, Venomoth is purple, Venomoth uses Psychic, Venomoth is on Sabrina's team and she's the Psychic gym leader, plus Venomoth has wings. For a Pokemon that I honestly never spend that much time thinking about, I needed a shortcut for my brain to figure out its typing. And I just decided not to consult its name, which is Venomoth. Well, it should be more like Moth Venom to get the right order, but that's a bit picky. Instead, I just assumed that this thing was a Psychic Flying type because all the evidence seemed to be pointing towards that. And yeah, then some of you decided to call me out for it. So here's the thing. I have ADHD and it really affects me day to day, especially when it comes to memorization. I routinely feel completely useless, frustrated, and incompetent when I can't remember simple things. That it really feels like they should just be easy to retain. It could be an appointment with a doctor, my mother's nut allergies when I'm making food, my music for a concert that I'm playing, or what my girlfriend just said. That last one is a joke, because making jokes is a great way to come up for air when things get emotional and tough. Anyways, when battling Koga in my playthroughs, I'd always see Venomoth come out, and then I'd panic a little bit inside because I'd forgotten the type that everyone told me it was, and then I'd just make a choice and assume it was something other than the Psychic type. So like, maybe it's Poison Flying today, I don't know, I'll try that. Even long after I realized that it was in fact a Bug Poison type, I was still making silly mistakes against it, like in my Tauros vs Kangaskhan video, where I refused to use Rock Slide instead of opting for other moves like Earthquake or Body Slam. So I took something that was really like painful and hard for me to process, and I turned it into something that I think is kind of fun. And after all, it's brought me a lot of joy because I've had fun collaborating with Serena in making these awesome Venomoth designs. By the way, I want to give her a big shout out for all of her illustration work for my channel over the past month, so check her out. Links are in the description. Blaine is next, and he could be problematic for Venomoth. However, in Yellow he lacks good AI, so he won't be using exclusively Fire-type moves today. I put Ninetales to sleep, use Psychic, causing a special drop, and then the fiery Fairy Tail Fox wakes up. I attempt to put it to sleep again, but I fail and I get confused as a result. Confusion and Venomoth, they sort of go together in my videos, so I guess right now even Venomoth doesn't know it's typing. It hits itself once and then snaps out of confusion and puts Ninetales back to sleep. Okay, that's good. 2 more Psychics are all that I need to finish it off. Relying on Sleep Powder is never great because it's only got 75% accuracy. I miss twice before I finally put Rapidash to sleep and then it wakes up right away. I fail again, and again, and again. So that's 6 Sleep Powders that haven't worked in this fight. Absolutely amazing. 7th one's gonna be the charm though. Rapidash falls asleep and it stays asleep. I knock it out with 3 Psychics. Arcanine's last. I think Venomoth's got all the bad Sleep Powders out of its system now. It connects first turn, the Fire Dog stays asleep, and with 3 more Psychics I take the victory. Sabrina's a mixed bag because her Psychic moves are super effective against my Poison typing, and Leech Life is super effective against her Psychic types. So I'm not really sure how this one's gonna go. I use Sleep Powder hoping that I'll avoid Abra's Flash, because if it gets one, I'm never going to connect another Sleep Powder in my life. The small golden fox falls asleep and I knock it out with 1 hit from Leech Life. Against Kadabra, I just decide to attack, after all I'm over leveled, and I think that super effective damage will be enough. It is. Alakazam's last. I hit it with Leech Life, but it only does half damage. Sabrina sets up an X defend and I choose Sleep Powder, because I think I'll need at least 2 more hits. I spam a bit too fast and use Sleep Powder again while Alakazam is asleep, and then it wakes up. Can that previous Sleep Powder just be like retroactively useful, please? That would be really nice. So I need to put it to sleep again on the next turn, and this could have made the fight fall apart, but it doesn't, and Leech Life takes care of Alakazam. Giovanni is the only gym leader left. He worries me though because I lack the flying type, despite Venomoth's obvious wings. And his Rhydon has Rock Slide, which was the move that walled me with my trusty Butterfree as a child. I got here after soloing the entire game and I just couldn't get past this giant Rhino. I use Psychic against Dugtrio, but it doesn't knock it out, allowing for it to hit Earthquake, which does around 1/3 damage. Persian's next, and it can do decent damage with Slash because it always gets a critical hit. However, I just knock it out over 2 turns. Nidoqueen's next. Giovanni has good AI in yellow, so why is it using normal moves instead of Earthquake? Well, the game checks this list to find that ground is actually resisted by bug. So yeah, it looks for the matchup that's lower on this list and ignores anything else that should be relevant above it. This is also how the glitch occurs where it displays the wrong type effectiveness text during battles. Because of this, I'm moving on to Rhydon with relative ease. I use Sleep Powder and it fails, but Giovanni's AI uses a guard spec, giving me another shot. Please, just fall asleep this time. It does, and with that, I knock it out with Psychic. I should have taught Venomoth Mega Drain for this fight, but I always forget that move. As a kid, it just felt like it did no damage because there were so many poison types in the region. I think that that's given me a strong subconscious bias against that move. The final rival is last, and quite frankly, this guy's sort of a bully. Despite his character being such a butt, well, literally butt today, Pokemon games became my own personal safe space as I grew up. But that wasn't because I was hiding from bullies in my peer group at school. When I first got Pokemon, I was in grade 1, and all my friends were playing the game and talking about it at school. So being able to participate in those discussions, I actually found connection and socialization. Normally I'm pretty awkward and I struggle in social situations, but having Pokemon as something to connect about has really helped me. However, my undiagnosed ADHD was making me a serious handful for my teachers to manage. I think they got to a place where they just didn't have any more skills to try with me, and so I was routinely sent out of the room, sent to the principal's office, or sent to just spend my time alone in another room where I couldn't distract other kids from their learning. To help me, and I'm sure they were trying their best, they invented a scoring system where I'd rank my behavior for the day on a scale of 1 to 10. Unfortunately, they didn't really prioritize making this scoring a private matter. Instead, all my peers watched as I got time and time again scores from 1 to 5. It was seriously embarrassing and pretty humiliating. I just didn't have the self-control that I needed to be able to stop myself from doing things like jumping up in class or walking around or talking to other kids. I remember thinking to myself, like, why can I not control myself like all of the other kids? And I felt really ostracized. So, why is this relevant to Pokemon? Well, every night I'd come home and wait for the teachers to call my parents. Once that had happened, I'd get a lecture and then the night would be ruined. And this happened pretty much every day, every week. But on weekends, and only on weekends, I was allowed to play my Game Boy. So unintentionally, a bond between these games and myself formed. They were my refuge from the awful situation at school. I just lacked the executive function to be able to fix it, but instead I was able to find a sense of fun and joy and social connection whenever I was around Pokemon. Here's Venomoth's stats before the league. I'm excited to try it out with the new channel mascot. How do you think it will do? Let's find out. I'm worried about Lorelei. While I have access to Mega Drain, which really helps, her Slowbro has the combo of Amnesia and Psychic. She has Good AI, which forces Slowbro to pick from these 2 moves exclusively. Good AI is the 3rd AI modification that trainers can have, the first being a modification that prevents trainers from using status moves when your Pokemon already has a status condition, the second being a modification that prioritizes stat raising moves on the 2nd turn. It's believed that this is actually an offset error and that it should cause trainers to raise their stats on the 1st turn instead. That would make more sense. This means that Slowbro is going to use Amnesia or Psychic randomly 1st turn. 2nd turn, it will use Amnesia, and after that, I'll have to pray that Psychic doesn't occur. To prevent this nightmare setup scenario, I use healing moves until Slowbro comes out, and then I attempt to put it to sleep. It fails. Slowbro uses Psychic, and it does 40% damage. 2nd turn, I try again. It falls asleep and wakes up immediately. Just great. Please. It falls asleep, and 3rd turn I get a chance to use Leech Life. And then it wakes up again. This hippo just really isn't tired. The 3rd time it stays asleep, and I finish it off with Mega Drain. Okay, I'm moving on. Sleep Powder and Leech Life will take care of Jinx with ease, and Lapras is last. I put it to sleep, it wakes up. This feels like it's happening far too often. 2nd turn, it finally stays asleep, and I knock it out with 4 Psychics.
The hiker between Lorelei and Agatha is next. If I have a psychic move on my moveset, I don't even save in front of him. It's just like so annoying to fight him every time. I need to get Greg to make a ROM that just removes him entirely from the game. There are just so many glitches in Generation 1, I can't believe that he's even in here. Agatha's next. All of her Pokemon are obviously poison types, so Psychic is going to be enough. In combination with Sleep Powder, her entire team doesn't stand a chance. Maybe Greg could remove her as well for certain Pokemon. Lance opens with Gyarados. By the way, I was watching a solo playthrough of Pokemon Yellow by Coach Max Entertainment while I was writing this script, and I had no idea how good Gyarados' base stats were. This thing is such a beast. No wonder it usually messes me up. However, today Sleep Powder lets me manage it without incident. Generation 1 Sleep is just seriously overpowered, like, I can't say that enough. With it out of the way, the following Dragonairs bring with them the threat of status conditions. A freeze can end the battle so quickly here. Today, it isn't an issue though. Now, Aerodactyl is probably Lance's best Pokemon in Pokemon Yellow, especially because here it has flying type moves which are super effective against Venomoth. Sleep Powder fails, Aerodactyl takes off into the sky, and connects for so much damage. Ouch, that really hurt. But Sleep Powder does its job next turn, and I'm able to slowly recover health with Mega Drain. In retrospect, I think I should have just finished it as fast as possible with Psychic, but I kept thinking that I wanted more health in case it attacked again. After that, it's time for Dragonite. It falls asleep, wakes up, of course, falls asleep again, and then stays asleep long enough for me to get it in KO range. I've done it. It's time to face the champion. Before I do so though, I want to kind of bring these three stories together. Two of them were from my childhood and one of them was from the formation of this channel, so how do they all relate? Venomoth's the bug that the designers decided, or likely decided, wasn't cute enough to be at the beginning of the game, and they just stuck it in a different evolutionary line because it just didn't quite fit with what the masses would want. It's the Pokemon I personally wrote off, mistyped, and forgot. After being treated similarly for my own neurological differences as a kid, I've recognized that Venomoth and I actually have a lot in common. Spending so much time with it and putting it in nearly every one of my videos, I've realized that I want it to be my mascot because it's a Pokemon that isn't a typical pick. Plus, I honestly think that Venomoth is quite cute. Quite honestly, it's worthy of being someone's favorite. Look at its little eyes, its cute fangs, and its intimidating T-Rex claw hands. It would have been my favorite if it was originally available in Viridian Forest. The champion opens with Sandslash, and because of the previously mentioned type list that the game checks, it's never going to use Earthquake against me, despite that being a good option. But Slash is a good option because it's going to get critical hits, but today it's not doing that much. I finish it off with Mega Drain and move on to Alakazam with 80% health. I fail Sleep Powder, it uses Psybeam, does 40% damage, and it confuses me. That's a 10% chance event. Not good luck for me today. I hit myself next turn and Alakazam finishes my Moth off with a critical hit Psybeam. That's the first loss in the league, and it's against the champion. And that was the first loss since Surge. Venomoth has been doing a really good job. He's such a good boy. He just hasn't gotten enough love over the years. I changed up my approach to Alakazam this time because of how much damage Psybeam was doing. I'll survive a hit from Psychic, so I think I can just use Leech Life on the first turn and not gamble with Sleep Powder. It does half damage, Alakazam uses Psybeam, dealing under half, and then I finish it off. Wait, never mind? It survives with a sliver? Okay, please not a crit. I survive with 22 hit points and knock it out. I made it. Exeggutor's next, and I usually use it as a rest stop. Quite literally. Jero said in his recent Beedrill run that rest is a bad move, and I feel personally attacked by this. Mega Drain and Leech Life are a potent recovery combo though, so I didn't think I would need it with Venomoth here. Luckily for me, Leech Life does 4 times damage to the pineapple tree, and it allows me to recover a decent amount of health before Magneton. I fail Sleep Powder, Thunderbolt connects, and then the magnets get drowsy. I use Mega Drain to gain back health. I'm taking this slow, I want to ensure that I win. With Cloyster out of the way, Flareon's last. Sleep Powder works, it stays asleep, and then I accidentally use Psychic. Obviously Psychic. After 3 of those, it faints, and I've beaten the game with only a Venomoth. Before starting this run, I estimated that it would take about 1 hour and 10 minutes of real time to complete, and I managed to clock in faster than expected with a time of 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 34 seconds. I finished the game at level 65 with 3 resets and a game time of 4 hours and 19 minutes. Here's my Generation 1 tier list, and I did sort of a retrospective for the last year and a half on this channel, where I ranked all the Pokemon in this tier list. Just realized this is subjective, this is not science at all. And today Venomoth earns a place in the S tier, because honestly Venomoth deserves it. Yeah, this is a subjective tier list, so yeah, I'm kind of leaning mostly on the real-time metric, but also my feel throughout these playthroughs, so yeah. However, a lot of us really love data. I know that I do. I love spreadsheets. And I'm actually starting to compile all my challenge runs into a big spreadsheet. So here's a first look at it. You'll notice that it isn't complete though. There's missing data everywhere, and some of it can't be obtained because I just didn't think to record it when I played the game with that Pokemon. There are a lot of Pokemon that I'll need to do reruns with. And quite frankly, when I started this channel, I was pretty awful at the game, so I think that if I play them now, I'll get better results with them. Also, I intend to complete a playthrough of Pokemon Yellow with every single Pokemon in Generation 1, so I'm completing sort of a challenge dex, which you can see on the left. Today I'm filling in the spot for Venomoth, one step closer. All the other runs that are filled in here you can find on my channel, but be warned, the older ones are significantly worse, but I think that might actually make them more entertaining. My plan for the channel is to have a solo video for all first stage Pokemon and feature their final evolutions in Versus videos. Middle evolutions will be used along the way in some of the Versus content. Others like Kadabra, Haunter, Machoke, and Graveler will appear in their own special videos, because I feel like those Pokemon deserve some special attention due to their evolutionary method. After all, if you played the game by yourself without a link cable, like I did for a long time, you'd never be able to evolve them. So I want to figure out how they compare to their final forms. Like, subscribe, ring the chime echo, and leave a comment because I gotta read them all. This video is brought to you by the generous support of my patrons. If you want to be one of the Pokemon in the final credits, consider supporting me for as little as $2 a month. Like these fine people. Thanks for making my dreams come true. If you've made it this far, you're incredible. I'll see you in my next video.